Burning in Maui.
Did you see that? That was incredible. Even hit Lahaina and burned some of their business district down. I didn't even, and people go, well, how's that possible? But the northwest side of the islands is all jungle, the southwest sides are all desert. All the mountains stop the moisture from going over the island to the rest of it. So the southwest part, like where Lahaina is very, very dry.
I'm just gonna let Chuck and Brian know that.
Okay,
Chuck, Brian, we're, we only have one commissioner present. We're waiting for one to come in on Zoom and one to, the third one to show up in person. So hopefully that'll happen in the next few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Traffic.
As I've said many times since I've hired Eric, I love the overall message that he gave to the team his first day, and that was basically, we got to learn to be comfortable when we're uncomfortable. And I think what's happened is for those guys on that side of the ball, things are uncomfortable. There's been a lot of change. And the entire way of doing things has changed on the offensive side. Change is hard, and I've always encouraged our players to have great dialogue and build relationships with our staff. Since those conversations took place with Eric and the players, I've seen the improvements. And I can honestly say that the last couple of practices probably have been the best training camp, which I think is great. To me, that displays a team is beginning to.
We love our house. The outdoor space is great, but we do have invasive weeds.
Tiger, get up here!
These Geico makes bundling my home and car insurance easy. We save so much.
Stay away from my family!
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
What do you think of the reaction from players to Eric Bieniemy's coaching style?
Players are just soft. I think they've become accustomed to the surroundings and the culture that they have in Washington. I mean, seriously, guys. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the reason you get a new coach, you get a new offensive coordinator, is because the old one wasn't doing a good enough job. And when you have a guy with the track record of Eric Bieniemy, a guy that's been to 5 consecutive AFC title games, a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls, no by the way, he coached the best quarterback in football along with Andy Reid.
That's easy. This guy.
Hey, hey, Austin, can you hear us?
They're all mute.
Yeah, I can hear you guys fine. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. We're gonna.
Have a good trip?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. We really threaded it there, though. We rode by an active forest fire. There were mudslides and blowouts on the river, and
Been
Thanks,
pretty wet up north, so
it was an interesting trip, but we managed to make it.
we had lots of fun working in the stores while you were up there.
Ouch.
All right, Willie, you all set?
Yeah.
All right. Austin, we don't have Pete here yet, so it's just you and me. Could be a miscommunication with Pete, and he may show up in an hour, maybe we'll see. But I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 3:15. We'll consider bills and warrants to start with. The only question I had, Willie, this Dodge Ram is a new sheriff's vehicle, the 63,000.
It's actually search and rescue.
Oh, okay.
Jim Donovan got a grant for it.
Okay, so that's through a grant.
That's
Fantastic.
all the grant.
Nice. The creative package act, gifts and cards, was that like for Ernie's retirement and stuff? or-
It was actually for Mike and Melissa's.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm I'm shocked by this, but, we had to buy election cameras. For the elections. That's
It would actually was all covered by a grant, but yeah.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna say, I was gonna make a comment about unfunded state mandates, but, and then, we had to fix the election cameras too, we got them, and then we had to fix them, or they just set them up.
We did have some issues with, because I didn't want them to hardwire them, I wanted them to use, Wi-Fi, so we
Okay.
didn't have wires running around. And so we did have to bring in some extra, IT to.
Okay, did the grant cover that, or did we?
We did it with outside of the grant.
Okay, all right. Just always amazed at some of these, how much these elections can cost. That's,
We get reimbursed about $700 a year.
wow, all right. That's the only questions I have. Austin, do you have any questions on bills and warrants?
No, Scott, you pretty much covered all that. I didn't have any questions. I'd make a motion that we approve the bills and warrants for August 9th.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Okay, we also have a set of minutes before us of July 26, 2023. Any questions or anything like that?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 26, 2023.
Yeah. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Our first appointment, and I apologize for being late, Chuck and Brian, is you're going to talk about on-site wastewater treatment systems.
So I could probably frame this issue if you, okay, so as the board understands, we're losing San Juan Basin Public Health at the end of this year. Currently, San Juan Basin Public Health assists with a lot of things for the county, but one of the big things they do for the county is our on-site wastewater treatment system administration, and I'll get into that a little bit. And so what is happening now with San Juan Basin Public Health going away is we are trying to work with La Plata County, and it looks like they are willing to help us on an ongoing basis in that administration. However, because it is not a regional public health, they feel like we have to adopt our own regulations to comply with state regulation 43, and then potentially enter into an IGA with La Plata County for assistance in that. And so that looks like the track that we pursue. And if the commissioners want to go that route, but this is a transition period, and there was some discussion that the commissioners might want to have some question and answer session with someone that knows a lot about regulation 43 and the requirements we have, and maybe the unique nature of San Juan County in terms of OWTS systems. And so I invited Brian, who is with San Basin Public Health, and he has been in charge of our on-site wastewater treatment system administration for quite a while. And also Chuck Cusino, who is, I would say, I don't know what your official title is, Chuck, but you're the guru of Regulation 43. I know that for a fact. So, and they were both willing to come here and answer any questions that the commissioners might have about the uniqueness of our county and anything that applies under Regulation 43 you have questions about.
Should we have Brian or Chuck just kind of give us a little summary of things we need to watch for, how we regulate it, different things like that? And Brian, you've been working with us a lot. Do you have some tips and advice for us?
I think I'm here mostly to answer questions about how we've administered the program historically.
Okay.
Obviously, the main concern that any county has when adopting an on-site wastewater regulation is meeting the minimum standards provided in Regulation 43. And Chuck, as the state on-site wastewater coordinator, is probably not that I'm unfamiliar with those requirements, but it's Chuck's job to sort of not administer the regulation around the state, but provide technical assistance to local jurisdictions. So I'm happy to answer any questions or even give a short background on how we administer the program in San Juan County, but I wonder if we might want to start with Chuck, just a basic overview of what the minimum state requirements are and what the overall process requirements are.
That sounds good to me, Brian. Chuck, could you do that for us?
Yes. So, yeah, my official title is the On-Site Wastewater Treatment System Coordinator at CDPHE, aka head of the poop group. Basically, the regulations are through the OWTS Act, which is in statute. They designated the Water Quality Control Division, which I work under, to develop regulations, and those must be approved by the Water Quality Control Commission. So the commission approved Reg 43, initiated in 2013. It was updated in 2017. We're actually going to start our stakeholder process again very soon, but the requirements basically state that once the regulations are adopted, that each local public health agency has 1 year to adopt regulations that are at least as stringent as Regulation 43. Everything lies with the local board of health. That's how it's stated in the regulation. So there's a section in the regulation that tells you how you must adopt these. You set a public hearing, you send me your regs, I review them and either approve them or make comment. And then you have the public hearing, and within 5 days after the public hearing, you submit it to me, then they're ready to go 45 days after. So that's the quick and dirty of the process. For many of the counties, this last time we came out with a template. It's like a 5-page template that basically says we adopt Reg 43, and here's some of our local nuances. Within the regulation, there's about I think like 12 or 13 what we call opt-in and opt-outs. Whether you want to have a transfer of title inspection program, that would be when every house sells, you have to have the OWTS inspected. You can say yes or no to that. If you say yes, the reg tells you, sets some parameters how you have to do it. Whether you allow pit privies, existing, proposed, whether you require effluent filters into a septic system, whether you allow higher level treatment systems. So those things you have to make choices on. If you allow variances, there's some items that you need to clarify of how your variances will be heard. So again, it's a pretty quick and easy, like I say, mostly fill in the blank. Shouldn't take too long to do that, but that is required as to basically develop and administer an OWTS regulation. So I'm not sure how much further you want me to go than that.
Could I clarify something?
Sure.
So, Chuck, I've been working, as I said, with La Plata County, and it was their position that they felt like San Juan County had to handle the adoption of the regs themselves, and then also any enforcement actions at a board level would have to go through San Juan County. And they would handle the administration in terms of receiving applications, doing inspections, and handling that aspect of it, and then being a witness in any enforcement action that might come along. Do you have is it your opinion that sounds like a doable situation? Does that sound like that's acceptable, from your perspective? If that's how we set it up?
Yes, there is a section in the reg, and I can't put my finger on it right now, but it does say that where the regs can be administered by such and such county or their designee. It's in there somewhere. And actually in the template that we set out, it says that, then it says so-and-so XYZ is designated as the designee of the Board of Health for La Plata County, so to speak. So you could say San Juan County is the designee for this program. However, the San Juan County would reserve the enforcement and whatever, again, however you state it in there, that's within your regulation. So yes, you could do that.
So we also had some questions, and I know you put a pamphlet in there in terms, or you put a little memo in the packet to the board. I appreciate that. That talks a little bit about, it talks about composting toilets, and it also talks a little bit about vault privies and things like that. It seems I've run into this in the other county that I work with, where some people feel like, well, why can't I use a composting toilet? Why do I have to put an OWTS in there? I think your memo covers that, but can you explain the logic behind that and the thought process there?
This was discussed pretty extensively in the last stakeholder process to the last reg revision. Basically, the item is, homeowner one wants to build a house and they want to do whatever they can to reduce the size of their system, or for whatever reason, be green or whatever, and they want to put a composting toilet in. Homeowner two comes along and they're like, no, I'm not going to shovel this out it's not for us. And if we were to allow a reduced size to the OWTS, there's nothing to say that the new homeowner number two would say, hey, county, we're going to put in a flush toilet here, and so we want to add on to our septic system. I would venture to say that would happen less than 50% of the time. They just change out the toilet, and then they'd have a flush toilet, and the system would be 30-40% undersized. So that was a discussion that transpired last time. And so we did put that in the reg that if the site can accommodate an OWTS, then one must be installed. There is a provision for composting toilets in our regulation. We do allow them, but it also makes a reference to the state plumbing code, which I don't enforce, but within that guidance clarification document, it does say that, as we understand it, the state plumbing code says there has to be a flush toilet in every structure. And they don't even mention composting, incinerating toilets in their documents. So tried to clarify that as much as we could. Like you said, there's other it comes up pretty much almost all mountain counties throughout the state. And it's going to be one of the items that will be discussed probably extensively during our upcoming stakeholder process to see what we can and how we can put some verbiage in there. Like I say, in that clarification, it talks about remote access sites where, if you can't get a pumper truck up there, then it makes no sense to put a septic tank in, because if it can't be pumped out, then it's not going to function for the life of that system. So in those instances, it makes sense to put a composting toilet in. But again, because the reg says what it is, we'll try to work that in next time. But the way it is right now, if the site can fit one, then it's got to go in, and that's the reason why.
I have one more question. I know it's gonna come up, and that's the issue of existing privies, pit privies. And maybe this is better answered by Brian or a combination of you two. Brian, do we have pit privies that you're aware of?
There are pit privies that have been permitted by San Juan Basin Public Health over the years. I don't know off the top of my head if any are in San Juan County. I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of them is. And our regulation does allow existing, well, it requires abandonment of existing pit privies, but there's not a database that's like searchable in that way, such that we could find all of them and send them a letter. So generally speaking, this comes up in our transfer of title process only.
So
Okay,
basically
so-
what that is that's one of those opt-in, opt-outs.
That's right.
So you guys could say we do or do not allow new ones, and we do or do not allow existing ones. So that's your
And we do permit, we have permitted a pit privy, or at least we were working with a property owner on a pit privy for one of those remote sites where there really were no other options. And I believe we were exploring that, doing that through the variance process. But in general, it doesn't come up very often. And if there are pit privies that have been permitted by San Juan Basin over the years, there's really not very many of them.
So if there were, if new pit privies were not allowed in San Juan County, but a situation came up where there was no other option, that's a acceptable subject for a variance if the county wanted to go that direction.
We explored that route, and Chuck's nodding, so I'm guessing it's probably come up elsewhere too. There are limits on situations where you can and can't grant a variance. The opt-in, opt-outs is not one of those restrictions. So you could opt out of something and then allow it through a variance, I suppose. It's obviously going to be a rare situation either way.
That's all I had.
I had a couple of quick questions for you guys. First, in the scenario or the situation that we're working with, maybe a federal land partner like the BLM or the Forest Service, and they're interested in putting in a public restroom that's a pit or a vault toilet, but they have the ability to put that on-site wastewater treatment system there. How do you guys deal with that in other locations? And are those federal partners kind of more responsive to putting on-site treatment, or are they still pretty firmly married to their pit toilets?
Basically what we found is it kind of varies, but in general they'll push against it. The determination that we have is that if there is a state regulation that is not addressed federally, which these are not really, then the state regulations, aka county regulations, would apply. So they would need to meet your regulations.
We've had this come up a handful of times, and I would say, again, it varies. If there's not running water to the site for any purpose, hand washing included, boot washing, whatever else included, we've taken the position that it can't accommodate an OWTS, and we use that language in the regulation, which again says, if you can accommodate a soil treatment area, which is our fancy name for a leach field, then you have to have one. Those only work if you have running water on site, because that's what's pushing the waste into the field. So most of the sites in question, there would not be running water. And so we've used that language to justify permitting something like a vault privy, which is the name for most of these would be counted as vault privies. And we don't require a variance or anything like that. In fact, there's language in Reg 43 itself that says vault privies are permitted for limited use, they're permitted. Seasonal or limited use are permitted.
Specialized commercial use, yeah.
Right, yeah, for properties that can't accommodate a soil treatment area. So there are absolutely routes to approving, the classic federal vault privy without a variance in our experience.
So the only difference, a pit privy is basically a hole dug in the ground.
Yes.
A vault privy would be your toilet on top of a concrete tank.
That's right.
That's the difference between those two.
Thank you guys for that. That's really helpful. And then the other question that I wanted to ask, and I really wish our other commissioner was here because it's much more in his wheelhouse of expertise.
He's here now, Austin.
I am Austin.
Oh, nice. Well, maybe I'll let Pete, tease this out a little bit. I just, some of these newer systems can be really complicated in the way that they function and work, and in some of these cabins that are maybe only seasonal access or have harder access to them. Some of these systems that have more working parts that are it creates another layer of difficulty where contractors and homeowners are seeing failures in their septic systems when previously some of the designs were a little more simplified and didn't have so many bells and whistles on them. Maybe Pete, you can do a better job at sussing this out, but what kind of options do we have as commissioners and county in terms of determining what style of systems are permitted and going through versus is that something that's dictated by IBC building codes or state plumbing regulations, or is that something we have some leeway in terms of system design for residents in the county?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm sorry I'm late. If I'm not caught up to speed, but from my understanding from talking to a few engineers, basically come January 1, all these systems are going to have to be engineered anyway, and basically it's just going to turn to the engineer to who's going to be in charge of inspecting it, since you guys are no longer in business. Is that correct, Brian?
No, I'm not sure what you're thinking of there, Pete.
You tell me. I don't know what I'm thinking. That's what engineers have told me. I've heard from 3 of them.
This regulation 43, basically it lists specific systems that must be engineered, those that have certain soils or have higher level treatment or so on and so forth. A simple gravity system on good soils does not require an engineered design. Inspections for an engineered system must be done by both the engineer and the county agency. A regular easy gravity system that's not engineered all systems have to be inspected by the county agency. And like I say, the requirements for system construction is pretty. Go ahead.
Who's going to be county agency then with La Plata? But that was my understanding.
So
go ahead and
just as a recap,
and educate me here.
No, that's all right. So I've been having discussions with La Plata County about whether they'd be willing to continue on if the commissioners wanted them to administering our OWTS systems. And so far it does look like they are willing to do that, and they're going to do that. They're going to propose, and I'm surprised I haven't gotten it yet. We're going to get an IGA from them, which proposes their administration. But Brian, and I don't have our checkbox from San Juan Basin Public Health in front of me. I thought we were all engineered systems now, aren't we?
No. As a practical matter, soils in San Juan County often require engineering. But no, we don't require anything different on system design.
I'm sorry. I've been doing it for 20 years, and everyone I work on in the county is engineered. So
it is very common, and that's due to soil conditions on site, not due to any choice San Juan Basin has made.
Right.
So as a practical matter, are you aware of any that haven't been engineered in the last 5 years? No.
I'm sure there's been at least one. It's, I will say also as a practical matter, many property owners who are not required to have engineered plans choose to work with a professional engineer. The bulk of people working in this design field are professional engineers. So even on properties where that's not required, that is the majority of people who are in the design business, at least in our 4 counties that we serve. There are definitely professional designers and soil technicians who are not professional engineers, and we do also get designs from them. Again, the soils in San Juan County, as I'm sure you all know, are not conducive to the non-engineered designs, but also as a practical matter, there's rarely that much of a difference on a lot of our sites between engineered and non-engineered designs. It really comes down to the soil conditions. It's rarely due to the moving parts that I heard described earlier, pumps, siphons, things like that. Generally speaking, we do see engineered designs because that's generally who's in the business around here, and that's who is available for property owners to contact for services on their property. But San Juan Basin does not require engineered designs in any situation that's not already required by Reg 43.
One site condition that does require, that probably encapsulates most of your site, any soil that has more than 35% rock requires an engineered design. And so
that'd be all San Juan County.
So there you go.
Yeah. I don't know why we're debating this.
Soil here?
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, and Pete, if you don't mind me asking a follow-up to that, what do you, you said after January 1, all systems would have to be engineered. Are you talking about maybe the updated regulation 43s that they're going to start working on? Is that what you heard?
That's what I heard, but I heard it from engineers, so I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, Chuck, maybe you could talk about what you think the next round of regs are going to look like in that regard.
For something like this, I don't foresee any. We put some pretty good time into it the last time around. I don't see many changes with that. Realistically, the stakeholder process is going to take probably a year, and then it takes 6 to 8 months to get it through the commission. So you're looking spring of 25 for the next edit. But I don't foresee that much of a change in that at all.
And then just for the boards, so you'll get some draft regulations, and I'm going to highly recommend that you go with La Plata County administering the system applications and inspections, just because we're just not prepared to take that over here. But I think we're going to have more discussion regarding what's La Plata County doing, and are we going to follow suit or do something a little different? And they seem to be flexible. I asked if there would be a problem if we had some differences between our regulations, and at least the indication I got was that no, you guys can pick your own.
I don't see a problem there. I'm just trying to figure out who the inspection on this. Is that going to be on La Plata County?
Yes.
Okay. That answers that.
So at the point that we're at, then Dennis, you're drawing up regulations that will be paralleling or the same as La Plata County, essentially, with our additions and nuances for our regulations. And what kind of time frame do we see with that as far as?
Pretty rapidly at this point, because we do have
We have a year or something like that?
No, the adoption process is going to go very quickly because of the state mandates and regulation 43 regarding the 45-day pause before they take effect, and then transmitting them up to Chuck for approval before the public hearing.
Okay.
So we need to get moving on them, but I think we're fine. Like I said, I've got La Plata County draft regs already, and there's nothing crazy in there. And so I think this is probably going to be something that's on the next meeting agenda for you to look at and say, how do these look, kind of thing. If not the next meeting, the meeting after. So we're ready to go with it. And then you'll also have to consider the draft IGA that's coming from La Plata County for the administration. And then I just wanted to, again, Pete wasn't here, it's going to be a little different than how it was with San Juan Basin Public Health, because La Plata County is going to require San Juan County to enforce the regulations or violations of the regulations through the Board of Health. And previously, Brian and San Juan Basin Public Health actually handled our enforcement process as well. I'm not sure we ever got to the point where a Board of Health had to do anything, but officially you guys will now be in charge of red flagging systems if it comes up, things like that. And we would still have the assistance of La Plata County to act as an expert witness in those hearings, but those will be on you now. And I just don't see this being a big deal, though. I don't think there's going to be a number of them, a high number.
If I may, I've
The
worked
red
in.
flag, like, would it be Devin that does the red flag, or who does it? Okay, right?
I was just going to say, in Reg 43, there are enforcement procedures that are assigned to staff, and there are other enforcement procedures that are assigned to boards of health. I also haven't seen La Plata County's IGA, and I don't work there, so I wouldn't have seen it. But I will say, in our experience, every year we do have some staff level enforcement actions, where we're writing something like a notice of violation or a cease and desist order. The Board of Health sort of final enforcement actions, we have not had a single one in the 8 years that I've worked at San Juan Basin Public Health. They're quite uncommon.
And we'll have to see what the IGA looks like in terms of what La Plata County is willing to do, what level they're willing to administer. Right now, they seem fine with sort of taking over the role that San Juan Basin Public Health was doing, but until we actually see the language in there as to what they're going to do, we'll have to talk some more about it.
Lisa?
I have a question for Brian and the commissioners about the transfer of title. When a property sells, San Juan Basin Health has been checking into the septic. And I wonder if that is something in Reg 43 or outside of Reg 43. Is that something we're going to continue doing for the county? And do you think La Plata County would do that?
Yeah.
Or is it just going to fall by the wayside?
It's an option. If the county chooses to implement that program, then there are requirements within Reg 43 of the minimum requirements of what you have to do. If you choose not to implement it, you can take it right out of your reg.
Was that something we were doing that before, though, weren't we? And I think we want to.
San Juan Basin Health.
Yeah, and I would think we'd want to be checking out a transfer, say it's a transfer of a 20 or 30-year-old property, we want to be checking that out to make sure their septic system is working. And if it's not, then they have to put in a new one.
We do about
Really handling that all on his own, and he would even look at the assessor. He would be watching when properties change hands to make sure they were all getting checked.
Who would do that on our part? Would that be on our end? Would that be on the Plata County's end, probably?
Again, it's hopefully these are going to be covered in the IGA. I think they're going to step right into what Brian was doing, hopefully. But again, that's yet to be seen in terms of the IGA. But, and then I'm certainly expecting some hiccups. When I talk to La Plata County, they're willing to do this, but they're feeling their way along. And I'm not, Brian, I won't ask you what your situation is, unless if you want to volunteer it, go ahead. But they're feeling their way along. They've got some people that are helping them along, but we're going to see some hiccups, I'm sure, that we're going to have to work through.
That's my only worry is because, Brian and his team did an excellent job for all these years, and they were spread thin to get an inspection up here in San Juan County, but they always did a good job and made it happen. With this new La Plata County thing, if the customer is waiting 60, 90, 120 days, I see that being problematic.
Well, and I think there's there'll be a period here for you guys to assess. Hopefully it'll work out fine. The IGA will be acceptable. You'll go forward and then you'll be able to see how it works. And then if you guys have a problem with it, it's nothing that says you can't pull back and do your own thing up here completely. But it's a lot of work, as Brian will tell you. It's not, you know, having someone trained on site, ready to go out for inspections and, taking all the regulation 43 trainings every year and participating in the stakeholder, meetings for the new regs and all that. I mean, it's a time sucker for sure.
Keith, Austin, do you have any more questions for Chuck or Brian? Willie, do you have any, or Dennis?
I don't.
All right, thank you guys for being willing to come and talk to us. That's been a big help. Then we'll be taking our next steps as far as draft regulations ready for next meeting, it sounds like, or
Next meeting or the meeting after, you'll be looking at an IGA and some draft regs.
okay, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Sounds good.
Brian, I just personally wanted to say thanks for all the help that you've given me. If I don't get to work with you anymore, you've always been available to answer questions just on the spot. So I've always appreciated that, and your understanding and knowledge of Regulation 43 has been extremely helpful over the years.
Yeah,
We are here to assist.
Yeah, thanks for all your
Yeah,
service.
thank
to
you,
the county.
Brian.
It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you guys so much for your expertise, your time.
Okay, anything else that you guys can think of on that? I think we'll move on to our next appointment, which is Becky Joyce with public health, and also our clinic updates, which they have some pretty exciting news about the clinic. So
There's a lot of us. Is it okay if we spread out over here?
sure.
Come on, Dana. Thanks for having us today. And so what we would like to do is we're going to just start out with not yet introductions, but just an overview of the build up to this conversation, just for a couple minutes. And then we're going to introduce you to Innovation Medical Group. And then we're going to have the Silverton Clinic speak on their behalf. If that's all right with everybody, does that sound good?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to have our health planner, Dana Krinker, go ahead and start.
Great. Well, we were in this room last October when we were talking through the community health assessment that San Juan County Public Health had just done. And similar to the assessment that was done 7 years ago, access to healthcare continues to be a high priority for San Juan County residents and Silverton residents. And it came up a lot in the commissioner election. I know Pete answered lots of questions on healthcare and healthcare access. And I think also considering the winter we had and passes closed, access to healthcare, I think, remains a real important issue for a lot of people's minds. And I think even with the service that we get from the Silverton Clinic, having worked for so many years and providing free care to our community, and such dedicated level of service, our ambulance association that we've really supported as a county and as a community, just this need for what does sustainable healthcare look like in Silverton and San Juan County. And so as the commissioners are aware, San Juan County Public Health led a task community health access task force that included several members of the Silverton Clinic, members of our ambulance association, members of public health, and a couple key stakeholders to really, and our Commissioner Lashley was also a representative, to really think at a county level, what would a model of sustainable healthcare look like? How would we fund it? What's possible? And really kind of thinking future for Silverton Clinic, future for healthcare delivery here. So that task force met a couple times throughout the earlier part of this year. We were really trying to think about what are other mountain communities doing? What are other rural communities doing, right? We're not the only community to face these kinds of challenges and people having to drive far to get healthcare, people not having, 7-day-a-week access to care or urgent care. So we're really trying to look at what are other people doing. Lois McKenzie, Becky Joyce, and I had thought about taking a couple field trips and going and visiting some of these clinics. We've made a couple phone calls and really thinking about, is there someone we could partner with? That seemed to be a common theme in some of these other places we talked about, is that standing up something on our own. I mean, the Silverton Clinic has done it for years and they're reimagining what that could look like. But just, is there someone we could partner with in the future to be a satellite of, as we think about covering expenses through billing insurance and really just thinking about what a future model could be. So we kind of started thinking about doing some of these field trips. And what we discovered is that a partner might be a lot closer than we thought. And that was pretty fortuitous, I think, timing and how it all came together and then talking with the Silverton Clinic. So that's kind of why we've got to this point, right? We've been talking about healthcare in Silverton for a while, and the importance of it and what it means for our residents. And that's kind of why we got here, to think about what it could look like in the future.
So fortunately, on a rainy Friday afternoon, I was visiting with my friend who's a nurse practitioner. And her name is Kathy, and I'm not sure where they are. They were here and stepped away, so they should be right back. But she works for an organization called Innovation Medical. And they have satellite offices all over the West. And hopefully they show up to where they can talk about themselves. I didn't see her out there. I'm not sure what happened, but essentially I was telling her how important it was for healthcare access in Silverton. It was our top priority. And she said, well, hold on a minute. And she texted her supervisor, who is Kim Archuleta. And she's actually related to Gilbert Archuleta through marriage and has a long history in Silverton. And she just texted her, and I got an email within the hour of the interest they had in coming to Silverton and checking us out and seeing what we needed. And that's been the main focus, is what do we need? It's not been what they can do, not necessarily what they can do, not necessarily what is in it for them, but they just from the get-go had a really big interest in saying, oh, you need more healthcare in Silverton. What can we do with you? So fortunately, it was incredible timing for the clinic as well. And we have all met several times together, the Silverton Clinic and Innovation Medical Group. And they are ready to work very closely with Silverton Clinic to provide 1 day a week medical care here. The really beautiful part is that they will come up probably on a Tuesday. And so then we'll have our Silverton Clinic on a Thursday. They are a for-profit group. They do see walk-ins, which is sort of a big gap for us right now, is that Silverton Clinic doesn't have the capacity right now to see walk-ins. They will not be in urgent care. But if someone walks in and says, I've got a sinus infection, even if they're not their patient, they will go ahead and bring them in, see them that day, get them what they need, and go from there. And that nurse practitioner typically has the capacity to see around 18 to 20 people a day, which is a bit more than our capacity right now. And the Silverton Clinic will still continue as a free healthcare, seeing primary care patients and continue their services. And then Innovation Medical with Kim Archuleta managing that and all of their satellite offices. They have them in Aztec, Cortez, Farmington, Durango, and then a bunch of other places up through Idaho. So their practice generally sees about 3,000 clients a month. So this is not their first rodeo. They have their own lab, and they're working out details with the Silverton Clinic on how they'll run. So like Kim had said in one of our health task force meetings, when you put out what you need and what you want, a lot of times with a little bit of patience, it comes. And we can't imagine a better situation right now, just because of the involvement of the Silverton Clinic in working with Innovation Medical. So this is so strange. They all said they were going to be here. So anyways, Kim was going to be on the screen. And Kathy and Danielle were going to be here in person. So I don't know what happened, but I'll let Silverton Clinic just talk for a minute.
Yeah, we the elephant.
I don't know.
So
That's it. But go ahead, you guys.
basically, we've met with them. I think it'll be a good, not partnership, but we can coexist. They are for profit. They'll see people with insurance or private pay. They do offer a discount for cash payment same day. It's not huge, I don't think, but it's not like a sliding scale for a lower income clinic, but I think it'll work fine. I think there'll be some growing pains while the town population figures out that it's two separate entities. We've met with them.
we as a board agree that we think it's a really good thing because, you know, our provider is paid through the goodness of Mercy Hospital, and Mercy Hospital is no longer as altruistic as they used to be because they were bought out by Centura. And so I really think the writing's on the wall that there'll be a point where Mercy will no longer fund our nurse practitioner, and then we really will be up the creek here. So I think innovation is a good segue into that when that happens. And I'm talking 2-3 years down the road, but I can see it happening just because of the way medical care is, and Mercy's no longer guided by it was faith-based, and now it's Centura owns it, and it's just a different ballgame. So this takes some of it off of us and worrying about, gee, are we going to get the funding pulled, you know, the plug pulled next week for us. We've met with them, and we've talked about sharing of our supplies and sharing of a cleaner in the building and things like that. So as a clinic, as innovation, as public health, I think we've worked out a lot of those kinks, and I think there'll be enough input from everyone that I think we'll be fine. That's basically what I see.
And so before more questions, I want Kathy and Danielle to introduce themselves. And do you guys know our commissioners as well? Maybe our commissioners can introduce them. Hi.
Scott Betchenayer, San Juan County Commissioner.
Let's meet.
Yeah, nice.
He might as well.
Kathy, nice to meet you. One of the providers, donor introductions.
Ashley's up on the,
Hi, Ashley. Nice to meet you.
Austin, sorry. Back. It's
Hi. How are you?
been a long day, sorry.
I hear you.
And then, you know, you've already met with Willie. Willie actually took a tour of the first moment when we showed innovation, our space, to see if it would work for them. And then Dennis is our county lawyer. So he also doing.
Nice to meet you.
Kathy is. Can I just let them introduce? So Kathy is the nurse practitioner. If you didn't get that, that will be up here on Tuesdays. And Danielle, would you like to tell them what you do?
Absolutely. So I pretty much do a little bit of everything. I started with innovation last year. I've been doing medical for a good 5 years now. So my role with innovation is marketing. And so I'm the sales director for our company. Yeah. So I handle all types of social media. I do in-person marketing. I do all of the supplies that our providers and our staff needs to get the word that we're here, you know, and we're here to help the community. We're here to be for you guys. We're not really in for it for the profits. We're here because innovation simply loves Silverton.
And this sounds like if we provide the space, it's really nowhere little cost to the county, right?
So,
I guess that was a question, sorry.
the way that we were talking about doing it was the county really didn't have anything to do with it. This would be a sublease of space, but from the clinic to innovation. And so there'd be some changes in the lease. Got it. But it makes it a little cleaner in terms of the nonprofit entities and all that. If the clinic's okay with that arrangement.
It was the president, so.
Yeah.
And so Willie and I were gonna spend some time brainstorming a little bit, but that was generally what we were thinking.
So we were talking about a new lease that we would put together and that would cover what our relationship is. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you guys introduce yourself as well, since you're on the clinic board, just so these gentlemen get Gigi Rain, Kelly Ferguson, so they're also on the clinic board. So yeah, there's a lot of us. So we've really done a lot of legwork with this so that we can just come. You're right, it should not cost the county anything for innovation to come in because they're a large practice.
Yes.
And a huge benefit.
And a huge benefit. So then we have Tuesdays and Thursdays covered. They hire their own staff. They supervise their own staff. They help pay for cleaning.
And they collected all the supplies, they're waiting for
Yeah.
an empty
I'm not
cupboard
sure
to
that
put them in.
their goal is to hire a medical assistant that lives locally. So that there'll also be that after hours ability to answer some calls and things like that, which is, I think, a big plus.
And it also like bring the economy to where Silverton, you know, we wanna give someone those benefits that you, like people have, you know, we wanna give health benefits and dental and vision and 401k.
And that'll help retain them because they'll have that, like, okay, I have all these things, I really want to stay in the community and stay in the clinic situation, so we're not rolling through new employees, you don't want to do that. You want to keep somebody that's here, that's vested here too, that you guys know.
The only thing, and this is just odd, because I was actually in Utah last week and I saw your clinic over there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I've seen the clinic in Durango and I've seen one other.
Uh-huh.
And you all, this is really weird, but you guys all have the same sign. out front.
Yeah, yeah.
And that could be an issue because we're a historic building, so that's something you're gonna have to probably address is if you wanted signage, I'm not sure it could be on property. You know, that is really the only thing I've been racking my brain that I can think of that might be something you'll have to look at.
And I
Just go on foot.
Well, excuse me. I had something I actually wanted to bring to the table. It's the topic of bestiality. And I know it's actually illegal in our county, but I find that to be very, what's the word?
Who is that?
Johnny, throw me something.
That's a trend.
What word am I
What was
looking
that?
for here?
Overpowering.
Yeah. It's overpowering when you like philosophize the anomantia.
Please don't mute me without my permission.
Is it like a TikTok thing?
It's a prank, it's a prank, yeah.
At least I haven't muted you.
It's like
Excuse me, I still am on the topic of bestiality.
Needs to go too.
Hey, please don't mute me without permission. I actually identify as someone who cannot be muted. Please respect my pronouns.
Holy
They're
mackerel.
gonna keep going.
Just
We-
keep them on.
But we can
We
go
don't
around
allow,
the place.
we don't allow public comment outside of our public comment period, so you'll have to come
Hey,
back. if you wanna-
Austin, I don't think your wife allows you into the bedroom.
Okay, yeah, here we go.
Get them off.
Hey, big daddies.
Jeez.
Well, that's a first. Yeah.
Yeah.
People need to get a real job.
And got a lawyer on the table.
Hey, I make bank from this, bro. Don't play with me, fool. I make bank.
Oh, not in the Boston rat, sorry. Oh, not in the Boston rat. So essentially, so what they're talking about too is they're going to hire someone like a medical assistant.
So
right?
essentially, basically what
That
I'm
will be
talking
up
about
here.
is, hey,
And then
lady,
they'll
stop
also be
talking.
able to
Stop
work for
talking. Stop.
innovation.
Bro, they
Yeah.
just kicked you just kicked the random dude out. Yo, can you stop talking, please? I want to bring the topic of
Zoom for a second.
I need to bring the topic of bestiality to light, and you guys are just nah, you guys are just racist. You guys are not even like letting me talk or speak. Hey, don't move that camera. Don't move that. That's racially motivated right there.
Isn't there a mute all right there?
Oh, I can see you now. I just want to say, is this not the bestiality club? Am I in the wrong meeting?
There you go.
Is this not the bestiality club?
She's crafty.
Yes.
She's crafty breaking in.
Did you just call me a she? My pronouns are he, him. That is very offensive.
Yeah.
So if you could just answer my question, if this is the bestiality club or not, because that's what I'm looking
Well, you're
for.
gonna
If
just
it's
have to
not,
plug it, Willie, and have
if
Austin
it's
call
not,
in.
then I'll leave. If it's not, then I'll leave. I just need confirmation.